ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
Well, this isn't your normal voice starting the show for the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. I'm Terry Radford. It's just me and Josh Lee for a temporary time, and then Nolan Ripple will bring it back. But it's been an interesting season so far of twists and turns and rights and lefts. Well, tonight we go to the shortest lobster-making track possible, New Hampshire. And yes, that was absolutely all ad-libbed. Welcome to RSR. Welcome to New Hampshire. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing good, filling in for Nolan Rempel as he deals with some personal matters real quick, but he will be here about halfway through the show tonight. But as we go into tonight, Terry, I mean, the storylines are kind of all over the place. I mean, coming off of such a momentous race at Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and now going to one of now a staple of NASCAR short track racing in New Hampshire, and with Vegas on the horizon to end it off, it's a close points battle as well with two trips left in the RSR Winter Series.
Yeah, we'll take a look at our points standings here in just a moment, as the points leader is still Agnell Phillip, but it's actually closed in quite a ton with Michael Araya right there, right behind him. Tom Wetmore's making a climb up through here. He was the 29th car in practice, given the fact that he did not put a time down in the practice session. But Cody Harris, Grant Davis, Andrew Phipps, Jason Staney, Corey Blevins, and Harry Grindell is tied back there with Ross Cato at 138 apiece. So we'll see who jumps up and solidifies 9th and 10th after this race here at New Hampshire. But we're looking at cars on the track in the 44. Michael Araya is the first one we'll see. It'll take time here. I believe it or not, the fastest person in practice was Esteban Rodriguez in that 16 machine, looking to put a really good qualifying lap down as well.
Yeah, how about Rodriguez coming into this series very, very late in the season as well, and throwing down some great laps at Montreal in that number 16 1 week ago, and now here at New Hampshire looking to sit that thing on pole for the first time in an oval setting in RSR competition. But as the first couple of drivers work their way across the line, Michael Araya, of course, a lot riding on this lap from him, but top of the board to begin qualifying, it's not going to be Michael Araya. It will be Cody Harris with Araya in second, then Wetmore, Blevins, and Steve Durham. Gonna round out the top 5 to start with Sam Nieto working his way into turn 3. Still no activity from Agnell Phillip yet in this qualifying session. He's still in the pits looking to put down his first lap.
Yeah, and he was off in the practice session. He was way down the chart. So, but think about what Cody Harris has done. He wins last week, kind of a surprise on the road course, but to some, but not to us. He was really good last season on the road courses. He put himself up there in a position to win it. As we continue to see a look here at that 16 machine, who put a hadn't put a lap down yet that actually counted. So we'll see what this lap does. But Cody Harris has done a good job here. We'll see what the rest of the field will do around him. But this seems to be shaping up to be a really good race here at the Magic Mile.
And that lap from Esteban Rodriguez that was not counted was we were on board with him when he tapped the wall a little bit coming through turns 3 and 4, used the outside line here at New Hampshire for that first lap and ended up making a little bit of contact to the wall. There's that second lap, going to count at a 30.855, put Rodriguez up to P5, and now we get activity from Agnel Phillip. This is a lot riding on this qualifying session for him, Terry. 11 points good over Michael Lariah. Lariah puts down a second place time. Phillip cannot give up much points to Michael Lariah, because if he gives up a little bit here and a little bit in Las Vegas, well, we've got a championship fight on our hands already, and it could very well be a lower gap heading into Vegas, and could very well be Agnel Phillip finishing second in the points, and we see Lariah at the top of Real Sim Racing heading into the Cup Series.
That's an interesting point that you bring up there, Joshua Lee, because at first we didn't think that we would have a championship fight on our hands, but then, boom, out of nowhere, here comes Michael Lariah on an incredible run. And Agnel Phillip goes on a better run. He goes up to P1. Agnel Phillip throws it out there, and he pulls about a 5/100ths of a second better than this field. What a lap. We were bragging Michael Lariah's face, but they're going to start nose to tail as you look here at Punkari. Tried to go out here on the racetrack last night. Did a good job in the PRL Cup Series. Obviously was not here at New Hampshire. We'll see what Brett Punkari can do here at a Canadian in the 35 machine.
Unfortunately, our fellow Canadian is out watching some hockey tonight, spending some quality time with the fam, but we fully embrace him going to go do hockey, because that means me and Terry get to be on a broadcast again. That's always a plus side.
That's the positive to it, and we get to look at Princess Daisy as well and see some amazing paint schemes out here. It's still surprising that Agnel Phillip must have been listening to the broadcast. He's like, nah, I'll top everybody. I'll go out here and put a really good lap down.
And I think what he was just doing there, Terry, is going to bring up a storyline that we're going to talk about tonight, and really until the next iRacing update, as Grant Davis puts in a 7th place lap time. Tonight, we have gotten rid of the restart zone policy that once iRacing added the automatic Geico restart zones, we've been using that in the Real Sim Racing Cup Series and now the Winter Series. Well, last update kind of broke them a little bit. They're a little bit too glitchy, throwing out a lot of missed black flags. So the RSR admins have disabled the restart zones, and we're now back to the old restart procedure, which is leader has discretion. Once the pace car is clear of the track, leader can go anywhere in between then and the green flag coming out. That can be very interesting for the initial start and all these restarts tonight, Terry, as we will run through about a 45 seconds worth of a warm-up, and then we'll be getting going with tonight's action.
Yeah, we'll get ready to go as we look around the cars coming off a pit lane. This is going to be a fun race. I like the fact that the restart zones are back to normal. Have the leader get discretion on what they want to do. They don't have to follow any certain guidelines, any certain rules. They can take off anytime they want off of that grid. And this is going to set up a really good race for next week at Vegas, because you got Michael Lariah, you got Sam Nieto fighting side by side. They're going to be all race long, hopefully, putting really, really hard fought battles on the line. I'm interested to see which one's going to come out on top, because the last time we were here, we were talking to Agnel Phillip at the end of it.
And I gotta say, I think we're going to be talking to Agnel Phillip at the end of this one again. I mean, I want to try and put money on somebody else, but it's so difficult in this series to go against anybody not named Agnel Phillip. But Lariah is quick. Some other drivers are quick. This is going to be an interesting one to watch from New Hampshire.
Well, a lot of people might be watching the blowout on ESPN, but I would be one of them. As 2 extra points missed, that's just trash, just pure tragicness. I'm mad that Evan's skipping out on us for hockey, though. This was a big thing. As you look at your starting grid here, Agnel Phillip takes the pole with a 30.6 with Cody Harris to his outside last week's winner. Championship driver number 2, Michael Lariah, sits there in third with Andrew Phipps. Sam Nieto and Esteban Rodriguez rounds out your top 6.
Back from there, Grant Davis will be to the inside of row 4. Jason Stain to the outside in 8th. How about Ross Cato and Tom Wetmore going to be rounding out the top 10 on the starting grid. Ryan Dunkelberger in the 18 with Corey Blevins to his outside in the number 99. That rounds out the top 12.
We go back here to 13th with Steve Durham, with Eric Papineau. Alexander Light, my buddy old Sparky back there in the 15th position with Brett Picari. There in 16th, Minazzi Major, and Braden Whitaker rounds out the 18th position.
Going closer to the end of the running order, Gregory Shaw, Brandon Fetterplace going to round out the top 20 with Thomas George and Tom Morano, 21st, 22nd. Sean Kalis, Chris Edwards going to round out the top 24 in the running order.
Yeah, Nuhan Flores in 25th, Harry Grandel, Mike Kaczynski, Steve Tucker, and Richard Woodruff back there in the 29th, and that's top to bottom of your field. The rundown here with Race Info, got 125 laps, fixed setups, no fast repairs, and 4 sets of tires. Expect that we would potentially use 3 of those here in this race unless it becomes a caution fest.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to be seeing too many of those tire sets being used anyway, as we really see at New Hampshire not a ton of tire wear in the Cup cars. I'm interested to see how that's going to translate to the much lower downforce that admittedly only a slight bit of horsepower reduction in these Xfinity cars.
Yeah, well, pace cars getting ready to come along, and what does Evan always say? Thank you for spending your Monday night with us. Pace cars off, it's time to go racing, and the green flag is out. Lap 1 in the books. Got a side-by-side battle back here for that second place position as Michael Araya. He looked to the inside of Cody Harris, but it was clean and green all the way back to the back of the field. People making passes early, but Josh, that was an early look there from that 44 machine as caution comes out into turn 1.
I believe that was Minazzi Major that just got turned around there in the middle of turns 1 and 2. Yes, that number 82 machine, and we'll take a look back, see what happened to him. But off the start, it was side by side, like you mentioned, Terry, for that second spot between Laraya and Harris, 2 of the fastest drivers that we've seen all season. And it was going down into turn number 1 here. It was a 3 wide moment. Minazzi Major in the middle, and middle 3 wide, Light on the outside, Shaw on the bottom, and not enough room for Minazzi Major. They go spinning, and one driver slams into him. I believe that might have been the 10 of Steve Durham or the 00 of Steve Tucker that just slammed into him.
Yeah, it was a tough blow early on for Minazzi Major and the Sprite machine getting turned, but early run, no drivers tend to come down the pit lane here as we go around with the pace car. Lights are still on for it. We'll come around here. Good part about this place, pace laps are very short, so we don't have to sit here much longer with Barney sitting there waving that thing. He's waving that thing pretty aggressively.
Barney the Flagman is truly the hardest working person in the iRacing sim. I think we can all agree.
Well, hopefully the pace car doesn't have to stay out here for a whole lot longer during this race. Hopefully we see 120 plus green flag laps. That'd be pretty cool. This is one of the better tracks for these Xfinity cars. And I tell you one person that he ain't watching, I'm sure, but Jonathan Goodell. That man is just ridiculously fast here. No matter what you put Goodell in, I finished second to him in an open race, and he's just crazy fast.
Somebody else who's crazy fast in these cars, I mean, and in the Cup Series cars as well, is Agnell Phillip. But I think it's not coincidence that we're really seeing Cody Harris, Michael Araya, Sam Nieto, the same quick names. I mean, I'll throw Grant Davis, Ross Cato. How about Tom Wetmore into that hat of fast in the new next gens, and they're fast in the Xfinity cars. I mean, it's the same classic RSR names that we saw all season long in the Full Throttle Cup Series that we're going to see again in the Full Throttle Cup Series when that begins up in just about a month's time. But taking to these Xfinity cars, we've seen them race almost the same but different at the same time, Terry. They're racing a lot different, but still seeing the same names up at the front.
Yeah, I think it's whatever car you want to put him in. It's just a good shot of the pace car. He drives the same too. Old Benny, he does a good job regardless of what track, left or right. Does a wonderful job. But the thing that kind of sits out for all these drivers is no matter what you put them in, car, truck, or the cup car, they know how to figure it out. They figure out how to get up front really early. And yeah, we've seen the same names: Phillip, Harris, Nieto, Lariah, Phipps. They're all up here doing the same thing they're doing. But this time coming off the 4, Pacetrack's going to pull down on the pit lane. Agnell to the outside, and here we go. Green flag's back out in the air for lap 6.
How about Cody Harris, Sam Nieto side by side for second? That's the dive into turn number 1. Lariah and Rodriguez behind. They try and fight it out. Will they get single files to the back straightaway? No, they will not. They're going to say exactly how they are as they race their way back into turn number 3 with Harris on the inside, Nieto on the outside. Rodriguez in deep, goes to the outside of the 2, looking for the spot.
Yeah, out to the outside he goes in that 16 machine on the 44. Little loose there on the bottom for the 44 machine on Michael Lariah, but the 16 of Rodriguez does a good job holding that line up there at the top. And that's an interesting line for the 16, Josh. He went a little outside the groove with 2 tires up there, but he's able to hold it. And this time the 44 gets cleared on the back.
I've seen that outside line work before here at New Hampshire, but I don't know if it's going to work too well at the beginning of this run when everybody's kind of on even playing fields with their Goodyear Eagles. Is Agnell Phillip still leads the way, and by a comfortable margin already, over 3/10 ahead of last week's winner Cody Harris in the 28, as we see side by side with Andrew Phipps to the inside of Staney. Staney stuck on the outside in the 57. Here comes the 24, Grant Davis to look for the spot, and they almost made contact off 2.
Yeah, almost had slight contact there with the 24 going into the 57, but here comes the 51 of Tom Wetmore. He's going to try to capitalize on that outside lane as we continuously go side by side through turns 3 and 4. The 24 still holds that bottom of Davis. He's going to get past here, and we'll see what the 51 does. He's going to jump to that outside, trying to make that stick, and, well, this lead stuff is fun, but it's not for me. I'll welcome Nolan Rimple in so I can go back to regularly scheduled programming here on RSR.
And we'll let Joshua Lee hop down and just focus on the work behind the cameras for this one. Better late than never is what they always say. And from what I've understood, it's been an entertaining first few laps with that early race caution on the opening lap. And then, of course, you find ourselves green flag racing for lap number 6, and then still on our longest green flag run so far on the 9. Looking up to Cody Harris down for that second position, hanging on from Sam Nieto in the fight for second, while Agnell Phillips started to stretch his legs and walk away with the race lead.
Yeah, Agnell Phillips done a good job so far in the early portion of this one. That early caution really didn't hurt much. Just back into the field, got taken out there. But Cody Harris did a good job holding the second place spot. And early on in this race, you kind of got to pace yourself. And, you know, it's going to continuously settle in. These tires are going to fall off as we progressively get through this race. If we get a 50-lap run here, you'll start to see the right front tire start to burn off and slide up the racetrack. But other than that, this is all about managing your tires and just rolling through these corners. And Agnell Phillips is doing a really good job. Short track king is what we should start calling him.
Yeah, no kidding. Agnell Phillip has been on an absolute tear so far when it comes to the short track scene. And while this might not be a short track, it sure races like a big one. And that's what's allowing for Phillips to stay at a fairly comfortable 0.8 of a second lead right now. Got to be careful that you don't burn up that rubber, or you could find yourself falling back really, really quickly as we get further and further into the runs. New Hampshire always tends to be a bit more of a strategy track. It's a bit more difficult to try to initiate passes. The straights just short enough that you can't really get a draft run down the stretch, and yet the braking zones not exactly hard enough that you could just send one up the inside without being at risk of washing up and sliding up into the wall. Taking a look back at Wetmore, Davis, and Staney running nose to tail in the fight for 7th, 8th, and 9th as Wetmore will look to the inside. Davis has to lift off to avoid hitting the outside wall. Let Tom Wetmore up at a P number 8, and now Ross Cato thinking about trying to make a move for 9th.
Yeah, those guys messaged on Twitter as we look at Cato here with a Braves jersey back there behind him. All right, I didn't know he was smart. That's a nice jersey. Good job for the guy in P12 or P10 in that 12 machine. But the crazy part about it is the Roadhouse Esports guys posted on the old Twitter and said that they were looking forward to tonight. And I asked him, "Are you fast? Do you have any speed in you?" He didn't put a practice lap down. He was all right in qualifying. He's up there in that 8th place position, just doing a good job, making passes, making people in front of him make mistakes, and not overusing the car this early.
See Ross Cato having to fend off Ryan Dunkelberger, making that drive so far here down to turn number 1. The Bowie Esports number 18 sliding up the track, and Ross Cato has to move up almost up into the 3rd groove there, right where the transition is on the seam, but he'll back out and tuck in line for the 11th position. Dunkelberger breaks his way up into the top 10 for the first time all day long.
Yeah, it's a really good run so far for that 18 machine, but I don't want to say anything out of line with him because I normally jinx him. He's always the one when I say he's doing a good job, he ends up finding a way into a wall somewhere or caught up in somebody else's issues. You look at the 16 Rodriguez, fastest in practice, didn't have the qualifying lap he necessarily wanted, caught the outside wall in 1 and 2. He's making a run here at the man who's 2nd place in points. Could potentially make this battle interesting going into Vegas next week, and Michael Araya, but Esteban Rodriguez finding it real easy on these ovals, and that little throwback here to Greg Biffle.
It's been a while since I've seen that variant of the number 16 font, and now we'll watch as that Pierce's machine hightails it down to the turn number 1. Staney, having to get a bit tight in the background with Tom Wetmore, the number 57 car. The Duke Supra nearly running over the 57 on corner exit as the Pearson's teammates still attempt to link up with each other. Andrew Phipps sits in the middle. Staney pushing up. Wetmore trying to find the inside, but there's just no speed off of the bottom shelf. There is a little bit of transitional banking here, progressive banking, sorry, is the word I'm looking for, right on that bottom seam, and Wetmore finding out the hard way why you don't have to see drivers making passes that low down the track.
Well, it also goes with the 57, the way he's driving in. It's like he's driving defensively. He'll go in the corner, and he'll kind of charge it just a little bit. The faster way around here, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but keep it in the middle lane. Just kind of slide it up just a tad bit and then work it back down. It works, I promise. It's what Agnell Phillips doing. It's what Cody Harris is doing. He's starting that 2nd groove, go up to that 3rd, bring it back down, get a straight exit off this corner. It normally works. You see it right here. These drivers are doing it. Laria's doing it. Esteban's doing it. You start in 1 lane, go to that 3rd, come back to the 2nd. It really saves the tires. It allows you to drive the car just a little bit deeper in the corner, lets you use less brake, lets the car just do its own thing. That way all 4 tires mechanically start to work on this car, and you're not just burning the right front up. But this is single file line all the way through here, so you have to hope now that somebody makes the mistake in front of you. As I say that, here comes Brandon Fetterplace trying to jump to the inside of the 72.
And Chris Edwards not having the best of runs so far, as Edwards will get himself sorted in the Extreme Performance Motorsports Esports machine way up to the wall, running by the top shelf. Not quite sure the Larson line works in the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The Patrick Wild contact between himself and the 00 of Steve Tucker, as Tucker's going to scramble off of turn 2. Right front damage now for that 00 Supra, and again, all the way up to the wall for Chris Edwards. See if he can maybe diamond it in and get a run off the corner. He'll get a run, but it's too big of a run. He has to actually back off and neutralizes any momentum he had coming off a corner exit.
Well, don't say Magic Mile too loud. There's a person in the chat that doesn't believe this used to be the nickname for the racetrack of the Magic Mile. As you see Tom Wetmore trying to look to the inside of the 57 of Staney. Staney's done a really good job this year. Being new-ish to the series and coming in here in this winter series as Wetmore does make the pass for 7th. It's good to see new, fresh names up front. And I really hope to see fresh names in the Cup Series. Let's, have our normal guys that come in, but let's add some names to it. Let's add some of these guys who've come in here in this IceBreaker series to go in here and mix it up. Josh mentioned earlier with the guys we saw in the Cup Series coming over here to the Xfinity side of it, and it's still the same names up front. These cars might look different, and they drive different. But when you get a feel for a track, you really get the feel for it. You look up here just a little further up, the 16's trying to make the run still at 44, Michael Araya, and he's trying everything possible. He's all the way up. He's almost up to the wall.
Yeah, almost up to that outside wall, and you can still see him trying to see if he can't work with it in that number 16 car. Rodriguez going to continue to try to chase after Lariah, and they're both going to go to that middle groove. Right up front there, you saw Nieto taking a bit of a lower line through 3 and 4, so looks like Nieto trying to find some speed around the bottom still, but Nieto losing some significant time to Cody Harris, so I'm starting to wonder, maybe he's holding these other guys up. Oh, there's a dive to the inside. Andrew Phipps trying to see if he can't make the move with the 25 car, but just wasn't close enough that last time around.
Yeah, he's about a car length and a half back. You can't make that sail move when you're that far off of the driver in front of you. What I really would have enjoyed seeing, and hopefully Evan's watching, let's go to the road course from New Hampshire. Let's have a race. Oh man, Rodriguez driving up those rear tires off the exit of 4, lost the back end of it, but didn't lose a whole lot of time. But I would love to see the road course come into effect in one of these leagues where you just kind of challenge everybody and say, all right, let's do something different. There's no walls. It's just grass. You slide off, you make a mistake, you're going to pay for it pretty detrimentally.
Especially if you go spinning off to that inside wall, because we've seen a couple of crashes in the last couple seasons, right? We've seen drivers actually embed themselves at the tire barriers over on the inside of the racetrack where the road course is for this circuit. And you saw again a look to the inside of 3 and 4 for Phipps trying to make that lunge on Rodriguez. Got enough to get the nose in, could not commit to the move, but Andrew Phipps very clearly showing that he's got some pace here and he wants to use it. But it's just the problem of passing can be so difficult at this racetrack. It's a case of what do you want to end up doing? You know, when you're stuck in a bit of a pack like this, there's not a whole lot you can do. Right, Dunkelberger, a bit of no man's land, but more like them to play defensive against Blevins from behind. There's the 10 of Steve Durham looking to the inside of Eric Papineau, and Papineau going to hightail it down off the straightaway and try to see if he can't get himself sorted up there. Loose off the corner is Papineau up the top.
That's just a classic case of what this track does. Is any line you run, if you mash the throttle too quick, you're going to feel the pain. You're going to feel the effects of it off the exit of this corner. You have to be really smooth going in. You have to be really smooth getting off. You just all the way around this track takes so much discipline and so much focus every lap. If you slide the rear tires in turns 1 and 2, 3 and 4 is not going to be your friend, and vice versa. Whatever track you do it on, it's going to get worse on the opposite end of the track. But right at the moment you see side-by-side racing, and look there, the 10 almost got loose, almost had to lock it up because Eric Papineau got on the brakes a little too hard trying to back that thing down before he slid into the wall, and it affected the 10 very harsh. We'll see if the 10's able to put a good amount of pressure on that 37 machine and potentially get up here in that 14th position.
You see him taking that wider entry. He's trying to see if he can get the run off of these corners. It's a wider entry, but a tighter exit. Look out, Papineau sliding out off of turn number 4. He'll scramble to the middle of the racetrack and get himself collected. Durham will not try to capitalize on the mistake and make a move. Papineau held on to too much speed for to be able to realistically do all that much. He's got to be a bit worried, though, about the likes of Braden Whitaker and somebody else right behind him there that's kind of running in these positions behind these guys. Sooner or later, they're going to get impatient and try to see if they can make their way through as well. That's Harry Grindell racing at the moment with Braden Whitaker, and Grindell will shoot to the inside, pick up that spot from Whitaker that last time by in 3 and 4. Not for lack of trying, though. Whitaker will try to cross him over while Durham tries to establish that momentum down the front stretch, but still doesn't have the speed. And how long is it going to be before he tries to put the bumper to the number 37 car? It's not really a Durham thing to do, but just about anybody can do something when they get frustrated of being stuck behind somebody. Oh, there's the mistake. Durham trying to shoot for the inside, this time in a 3.
Yeah, he's actually going to shoot. He's going to make that pass. We'll see if he can actually make it stick. He's going to slide up in front of that 37 machine. But the 37 is going to cross him over. He's going to try to get under there. This battle is just going to continuously keep happening. You're going to think about it over the time. I'm sitting here watching lap times back and forth. Well, it's not like one's that much faster than the other. It's not like what I'm seeing up here between this lead fight and the fight behind it is right when I'm looking. I switch back over and we're on the battle for third because Michael Araya is faster than Sam Nieto on the long run. It's about a 10th difference between the two, Michael Araya being the fastest one. And between Cody Harris and our race leader, Agnell Phillip, Cody is actually faster, but he's not faster for a long period of time. He has stints of I'm faster than you, and then he has stints where, oh, I'm really getting whipped. And that's the same thing with this battle. Nieto just can't figure the consistency of the pace out. But Michael Araya is just sitting there running same lap time after same lap time, and he's only at that time he was only 5/100ths faster, so fell off a little bit for just being behind him.
You know, that's something I've kind of noticed about San Diego, even all throughout the Cup Series this past 2022 season, right, was the fact that San Diego can be really, really quick on some of the runs. Sometimes it's faster in the short run, sometimes it's faster in the long run, but he just can't seem to be able to figure out the consistency of his discount tire and Roush Performance #2 car, and I think that's what's really been struggling for him so far for Nieto. I mean, he's got to get that consistency figured out if he wants to go out and try to take more race wins. And right now, looks like just lacking some of that long run pace as he'll hang on to the third spot for now. So I guess not too bad when you compare to some of the other drivers lower in the field. But speaking of drivers in this field where the pace might not be there in the long run, that gap between Agnell Phillip and Cody Harris, once up to 8/10, has just been halved, and it's down to 3.5.
Yeah, I think there was a mistake that happened there on Agnell Phillip's part as we're looking at Tom Wetmore. He's actually closing to the door of the top 5 as he goes below Esteban Rodriguez here in that 16 machine. We'll see if the 51 can do something we really haven't seen all race long. And I know we're only 35 laps into it, but damn, not passing on the bottom at a racetrack is a big deal, especially when you're at New Hampshire. And that's one of the racetracks you can kind of sail it in late and get a good run. That was a great pass on the bottom. As the crossover tries to be an attempt at the 16, he'll go down below, and it's not going to work. He'll tuck inside here. But lap time and speed-wise, this is one of these racetracks that really demands tire saving. If you don't tire save this place, as we go back to the battle for the race lead, there's a lot of tire saving for that 28 machine, and nobody can tell me otherwise that they didn't save some tires, because there's no way he's laying down 2/10 faster than Agnell Phillip without saving some tires.
I mentioned it right when we started this green flag run when Phillip walked out that 8/10 of a second lead, and over the span of about 5 laps or so, that he's got to be careful, because sooner or later Cody Harris is going to start to reel him in, and sure enough, that's exactly what's starting to take place here. Now off of turn number 4, and Harris is there. That's something that Agnell Phillip struggled with all throughout the Cup Series in 2022, and now continues to struggle within the Winter Series season. He just does not have the long-run pace. Phillip thrives over the almost stop-start nature of some of our more chaotic tracks, like the likes of Martinsville, Bristol, and so on. And now Phillip under heavy fire at the Magic Mile by Cody Harris. To the inside goes Tom Morano, goes Agnell Phillip, who will stay up wide, get out of the way. First bout of lap traffic. Good news for now. The lap cars are few and far between.
Oof. Well, at least the lap cars aren't here. I'm playing double duty for the second night in a row. I'm watching the Cowboys beat the brakes off of the Bucks, and I get to watch a tire wizardry with what Cody Harris has done so far with this. That time Agnell Phillip was faster, but lap traffic just got caught in the wrong spot, and I checked Agnell Phillip up in 3 and 4. It didn't hurt him off the exit, but he's going to lose a little bit here as Cody Harris gets up there and puts that thing down to 2/10 of a second even as we continue into turns 1 and 2, 39 laps on this board. Wow, we really do have a fight on our hands, and pit stops are on the horizon.
About 1/3 of the distance completed from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and thought for a moment that Phillip had some technical problems, but those will get quickly resolved, and Cody Harris will now again try to go for the wider entry, tighter exit. Diamonds off the corner from the bottom side. The gap closing down to under 2/10 of a second, down to about 1800ths of a second or so, and Phillip will extend that lead back out up to about 2/10 as they'll hightail it off of 1 and 2. Now Cody Harris, he's gotten up to where that wall of dirty air is. Now his problem is trying to see if he can break through it, and he's only going to be able to do that by getting a good drive off one of these corners better than the likes of Phillip can.
Yeah, he's going to need to break through like Zac Efron in High School Musical. He's got to break free somewhere, you know, because he's soaring, he's flying, and there's not a chance in heaven that he won't lead this race. But if he's trying, he'll break free. He's going to have to make this pass in 1 and 2. This has been the strongest part of the racetrack for him. If he's going to go, he's going to have to get on the back bumper, make Agnell Phillip, which is hard to do because he is our defending champion in the Cup Series. Make him make a mistake. Make him do something uncharacteristic. As Cody Harris, he goes to the third lane there trying to grab a bottle of whiskey. goes down to that middle lane. He chops a little bit back into that time that he lost down the front stretch, but 3 and 4 just has not been a good spot for him.
And now that gap started to even extend a little bit as Harris will fall back to 3.5 tenths of a second. The gap for third, though, still closing in. Nieto and Lariah up on screen now. They will start to slice and dice with each other. Murata, meanwhile, has taken to pit road, and it looks like it'll be our first green flag stop then here of the day, while Nieto continues to fend off the likes of Michael Lariah, but the Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet really applying on the pressure to the Discount Tire Mustang, and not going to make the look this time by over in a 1. Thought he might, but still wants to get that good run off the corner. Side-by-side battle a little bit further in the field. Durham and Gregory Scholl fight it out for 13th place, and Durham will take this one to the inside. Washing up, he'll collide with the 71, and around goes Gregory Scholl in the Get Wet Esports Chevrolet. No caution, but he'll tag the outside wall with the right rear.
Yeah, that ain't how you want your days with the replay here. He just washes up, gets on the gas here. You could say they're still side by side, but you see the little wash up happening there. A little looseness from that 71. We'll see here in turn 1 is going, bam. And around the wall saves him. And that's how the cookie crumbles.
I can tell you right now, the silence for those few seconds immediately following that wreck was absolutely deafening on the radio, but Durham did eventually come out and say, yep, my bad on that one, and it's hard to say you blame him. That's just the classic case of throwing it too deep and locking it up. And that, again, it's that progressive banking that works against you, right? There's a slight banking difference from the bottom to the top, and it was that little difference that Durham just found the hard way. And still got this big train of cars in here from about 3rd on back, but particularly around 6th to 8th, and that involves the 2 Pure Sims teammates, and you got Andrew Phipps in a bit of a Pure Sims sandwich here at the moment as he tries to see if he can't advance his position up to 6th.
Yeah, we'll see what happens before pit stops do become a thing. We are in this window where we could potentially start to see guys come in, make an early pit stop. We've seen some guys back here in the back. They came in early after that first caution. They were 41 laps on their stint. 46 laps for all these drivers around here. I would imagine somewhere they'll try to split this race in half unless there becomes a caution fest towards the end, in which, knock on wood, it doesn't. You'll split this race right down the middle, probably about lap 60 to about 65-ish. You'll start to see drivers come in, and if it stays with the gap up front between Agnew Phillip and Cody Harris, I would think that Sam Nieto would be your trigger point, because if he comes down and pits there in that 4.5 second range back there in that 3rd position, or I would say anywhere to the 5th place position with Tom Wetmore, that you would have to imagine that your race leaders are going to come in and just assume that they're trying to get the undercut really well on them and just nip that in the bud.
So I was actually looking at the bankings. I was a bit curious, and it is 2 to 7 degrees, 2 from the bottom, 7 at the top, at a 12% grade, which that's not the it's not the steepest hill in the world, but it's far from the flattest hill either. And I think that really kind of tells a story about how wide this track is. You can barely tell the difference on a 12% grade on the hill, which you try to walk up that, and you're gonna be on a bit of a. It's going to be a bit of a walk for you to try to walk up the bank, and not nearly as exaggerated as it is at tracks like Bristol or Daytona, mind you, but it still is almost a small little hike there. So you got the 25, now trying to see if he can't dime it off the corner to hightail after Esteban Rodriguez. Had a couple other drivers come down to the pit road, including Mike Maddox, and since then, Chris Edwards and Tom Morano have both taken their cars behind the wall. Kalis, Woodruff, and Major all sitting laps down. Alexander Light, the next driver down the road, to be putting himself 1 lap down. Andrew Phipps, I thought he might try to break out of the Pearson sandwich, but a little tank slapper off of 4 will prevent him from establishing the run down the pit straight.
Buddy ain't faring too well over here with old Alex Light, my old broadcast colleague from Burnt Rubber TV. He'll figure it out. He'll get his foot in here in this RSR league, but early struggles for him. I mean, I'm struggling in PRL. I'll give it to him. You know, this is it's new. He's got a kid. Probably didn't have a whole lot of time to practice. He'll get better. Hopefully he does. I want to talk to him after a win one day. But you see the battle going on here between that 48 machine, Braden Whitaker, and Thomas George in that 6. A little bit of damage there on the back bumper of that 48 machine. It was an easy pass there for that 6, the Sirius XM Ford. As he looks up the mirror, he's trying to go a little bit further and past that 71 machine, who's already had issues with the wall.
He's not the only one that's had issues with that wall, and in fact, that's part of the reason why the Extreme Performance Motorsports drivers have retired of the Chris Edwards and Tom Morano in particular. And this is actually coming straight down from the XPO channel itself, and included the number 30 car, Mike Maddox, citing handling issues, which I found a little interesting to say the least. Now, it's worth noting both drivers, Michael Kuczynski and Tom Morano, had damage over on the right front, and I think it's safe to say it's fairly reasonable to say that's exactly what ended up happening here. And I just find it interesting. You don't often see drivers retiring from handling issues, but you compare the pace that they had in comparison to some of the other drivers as time had gone along, and it becomes a little bit more understandable as to why you'd want to pull the car off and just call it a night. So it's a big shame for those guys. Hopefully they'll be bouncing back before too long later on in the season as well. We are actually closing in, and a bit of smoke flying off of the outside wall of it too. I believe that was Staney that might have had a bit of a brush.
Yeah, handling's a big thing here, and I said this the other day on a broadcast at New Hampshire. This is just like Gateway. This track and Gateway are virtually the same, in my opinion, when it comes to driving styles and when it comes to what you have to do to the car, especially in the Xfinity cars. Everybody says, oh, you drive these things as hard as possible, and they're the best cars to drive on iRacing. Hands down, you could put the GT3s, the Ferraris, the BMWs, the NASCAR cars, or whatever. These are the best cars to drive when it comes to an oval side of things. I would even put them in the road side too, that these are some of the best cars. They're hard to break, but they're very fun to get around these courses. But you have to make sure everything handles right. You have to make sure you're able to feel the car. And I know people go, oh my gosh, it's sim racing, you can't feel it. Oh, you can. You feel it in your feet, you feel it in your hands. But drive with your feet more in these cars than you drive with your hands. If you're sitting there sawing at that wheel, you're going to burn the right front tire off. You're going to slide that thing all the way to the wall. You're not going to have a good time. It's the same thing with road racing. You want to drive with your feet. You drive with your hands over there on that side of the thing, and you're going to have a really bad day. You're probably going to be wrecked like I have in the past two PRL 4 races, and you're going to get embarrassed on a broadcast, and it's always going to happen.
Well, you couldn't do as bad as me when I ended up taking out about 5 cars in the Ivor Club Cup at one point.
Okay, yeah, I haven't.
We've had our moments.
Terry hasn't wrecked nobody. Let's all calm down for a second. Terry hasn't wrecked nobody yet. I've wrecked myself, but I ain't wrecked nobody else. That's the one thing that I'll pride myself on. I'd rather take me out than take anybody else. We'll go aboard the car. He's good. Look at that. All right. There's a reason. There's a reason that our producer was going off in the chat. Look at that. Look at that shot.
Turn 2, and Rodriguez has hit the wall hard, and he's tumbling down the order. That's going to bring out caution flag number 2 on the day. Sorry to cut you off there, Terry, but huge damage now on the number 16, and that's going to be big for that battle for spots inside the top 10.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. He was fast. He had good pace in this thing. Just didn't have the long run speed in it, but our man who was fastest in practice, 5th in qualifying, he finds himself, he was back there inside the top of half of this race. And did he get help would be the real question. Oh, he got big help. Oh, he overcorrected it. Oh, come on.
Yeah, Andrew Phipps, the driver that ends up helping Rodriguez around. Phipps trying to make a move to the inside, and Rodriguez tried to cover off the door too late when Phipps is already at the door, and then you mentioned overcorrected and went head first into the outside wall. Yeah, this is a good time for everybody to come on down to pit road. Expect just about everybody on the lead lap to be in this time by. So far, nobody that's on that lead lap has stayed out, and of course, Rodriguez already in the box. The only drivers staying out are all guys that were already a lap down.
Twitter's a wonderful place to be. Roadhouse Esports tweets at me and says, "Feel it in your hands and feet is good, but racing legends also have a good ass." I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. I do about 2 squats a day to keep mine, and I'm not a racing legend, but I'm a broadcast hero, that's for sure. As Agnew Phillip wins the race off the pit road with Cody Harris, Sam Nieto, Lariah, and Tom Wetmore, your top 5. And I wonder if did Andrew Phipps take responsibility for that one?
Not as of yet, no. There's been no driver that has taken responsibility for this one. And, of course, it's not required that you take responsibility for a wreck. But if you don't and you're found to be at fault, then, of course, it will be leave you with a harsher penalty. As now you got the guys that were laps down that are coming down pit road, including Woodruff, Major, and Kalis, and the likes of those guys. And this looks like it may be one to go down to the post-race review. Alexander Light making a secondary trip down pit road. Interesting for the number 8 car. Oh, he stayed out on his first time around.
Yeah, he
did he get a lucky dog?
Yeah, he wanted. No, he wanted. I think he might have got the lucky dog there.
He did get the lucky dog.
He did get the lucky dog there. He
Yeah,
wanted a little. He wanted a little broadcast spotlight too. I see you, Alex. Don't worry. I saw you in the field when I logged on. You'll go back and watch this race. You might be watching it now. Hi to the Light family. I miss y'all. You know, I've been. I enjoy our Twitter banter back and forth every now and again, but. That kid's got a bright future in broadcasting if he ever wanted to do it. I'm trying hard to push him into doing a little bit more of this because the kid's got a really good voice, really sharp across the board. It's really good to see these drivers coming in to RSR and seeing how awesome this league is. I know I say it probably weekly, but this probably is the best series on iRacing that runs, whether it's the Winter Series or the Cup Series, just a diverse group of drivers that come together and have a good time.
So you know more about fuel numbers and all that sort of thing than I do. There's a reason why I'm not a crew chief, and I just tend to stick around to calling the side-by-side.
We ain't pitting again.
Pit strategy.
We ain't pitting again.
I was wondering about that because we're not halfway yet, but
we ain't pitting
pretty
again.
darn close.
Yeah, we ain't pitting again. If you're pitting here, they were going to split this race in half regardless. You would have seen them come in 65, probably lap 70. They could have pushed it all the way to. You're going to see a pit stop again. We should be fine on fuel. Tires could be an issue. If we see a caution in the next 10 or 15 laps, I expect to see everybody come down pit road and use that. We have 4 sets of tires, so everybody will use that second set.
Pace car is down, and then we'll leave it in the hands of Agnew Phillip. Jumps early, and we'll launch it back to green. Typically, the restart zone is being used at RSR races, but of course, with the, shall we say, technical gremlins that have come up with restart zones in recent weeks, they've opted to abolish that rule for this race, which means leaders allowed to go as soon as that pace car leaves the racing surface. Cody Harris making a drive for the race lead. Down to turn number 3, the 28 car, all the way to the bottom side. Phillip trying to cover him off, but can't get the run off of turn 4.
Oh, you got to be careful here. That was a tight spot to make that pass. He sailed that sucker in there. You got to make sure you keep that thing below you. But I called Agnew Phillip the short track king. I think we need to pass a little more love to Cody Harris and what he's done on the short tracks. First race win with Bristol. He's done a good job. He's been consistently top 5 in the mile shorter racetracks, and here he finds himself leading it. He's been second for a majority of this race. He's had a really good run so far. As Lariah goes to the outside of Sam Nieto here, they're battling for that 3rd place position, and this could spice up the points race. Now that we're seeing Agnew Phillip not leading it, does this change the balance of his car? Does the 44 have a chance to go up here as a side-by-side for the lead and for 2nd or 3rd coming off 2?
Side by side, 2 rows deep. Phil trying to pinch Harris up to the wall to prevent him from turning in to make the racing line down to the corner. That's going to work like a charm. Phillip's got all the room in the world to play with, but now Harris can just diamond it off and try to get that run down the front straightaway. 64 down. This is going to leave 61 to go now in this race, so we are over halfway as Agnew Phillip Lunges with the inside. He'll get around Cody Harris, but Harris immediately making that move for the crossover, but gets unsettled with that bit of progressive banking transitioning, and he's going to end up dropping back a couple spots as well. Meanwhile, Lariah and Nieto still side by side for third.
I love that we put the live standings up there on the right-hand side of this thing, whichever way you're looking, my right, your left, or your right, my left, whichever way it's on the screen, just look at it. Agno Phillip leading this race. While he cannot sew up the championship today, he can put himself in a really good opportunity going into Vegas, that all he has to do is finish, 9 spots. He has finished top 20 pretty much if he holds us here with a 20-point lead. So not a whole lot that Michael Araya can do. He's going to have to hope to get around Agno Phillip here, leave out of here with maybe a 10 or 15-point gap in between the two to set this up for a championship Las Vegas finale like no other. Agno Phillip won the championship on a very bold strategy call in the Cup Series. Can he get beat by Michael Araya on a bold strategy call at Las Vegas, or will Agno Phillip go 2 for 2 in RSR in 2022? You know what I mean. 22-23 time frame. It's like college football. We start one week and then the other week it's the gone.
You got Nieto still trying to see if he can apply some pressure to the likes of Cody Harris. Now, Harris burned his stuff up early trying to get around Phillip and just couldn't capitalize on the defensive game to keep that race lead. So Phillip again pulling out that 5.5, about half a second lead now. But you still have to keep that in mind in the back of your head that, remember, that gap shrank down to about 0.2 of a second by the end of the fuel run. So these guys are going to have to be a bit more concerned about that, or at least for Phillip, he's going to have to be a bit more concerned about that unless he starts to save some tires in the early run, much like I'd imagine Cody Harris is doing right about now, as San Nieto sits behind in that third position. We're about to cross over into lap number 70 in a few seconds' time. Araya giving a bit of a bumper by Tom Wetmore back behind for fourth.
Yeah, right now is the time that you actually have to be as aggressive as possible. The tires are cold. Now they're a bit warmer. They've gotten up to that optimal temp. They need to get up here and make any spots possible. You can't sit around and ride the entirety of this, because these Xfinity cars in traffic are kind of like what the trucks are. If you get too close behind another person's bumper and you just ride in that dirty air, you can begin to push tight. You can start to burn the right front up, start sliding it up the racetrack. Even when you're not intentionally doing it, it burns it. I don't know why. It's just a weird thing that happens. And so far, it's been, it's been pretty decent. All these drivers have done a really good job. We see single file all throughout this field in very close quarters. Look at Dunkelberger back there in that 6th place position trying to work on Tom Wetmore.
And Dunkelberger trying to see if he can apply the pressure to Wetmore, while Wetmore continues trying to put the screws to Lariah's back bumper. And I think at the moment Wetmore's kind of in a mindset of, if I don't get around Lariah here, Dunkelberger is going to get around me. And once you got one guy up on your inside, it's so easy to get freight trained at a track like New Hampshire. 55 laps to go on the dock, 54 at the line, with Harris still trying to struggle to hang on with the second position. It's about second on back, all the way to 6th. All thrown under a blanket. Wetmore taking too tight of an entry, open up the door for Dunkelberger to start to show his nose on the inside.
Yeah, we'll see what that Ford can do compared to the Toyota. The old Supra up there in 5th, trying to hold on. But with a single file line, the way that we're seeing it here, it's going to make it a little bit more challenging to make these passes happen, because there's nowhere for you to go, because there's nowhere for the driver in front of you to go. They're trying to make passes too, and currently at the moment we just see a conga line all throughout here as the 51 and the 44 start to accordion together, as it looks like Sam Nieto's, he's not slow by any means, but they're a little faster behind him.
They certainly are faster behind him, and you can tell that's what's starting to play on his mind here. And it's playing on the minds of Lariah and Wetmore as well, as Wetmore tried to look for the inside of 4, but got too low onto the transition, had to back out. He would have spun on the tires and looped himself around off of the 4th corner. Dunkelberger still sitting with the pretty comfortable gap here at the moment, back to the likes of Jason Staney and the 57 Pure Sims machine, as Lariah again tight and close to the outside wall. Wetmore shows the nose, but not going to commit. That's only going to compromise the Wetmore's line as they enter turn 3.
And we'll continuously see what this battle brings as the 51, he goes below the 44 here. The 44 kind of washed up off the exit of 4. We'll see that side-by-side battle happen for that 4th place position here as we'll see the bottom lane get utilized here on the outside middle-ish groove as Lariah does a good job there off the exit of turn 2 down the back straightaway. We'll continue it side-by-side into 3.
Side by side into 3, Wetmore and Lariah still going to be side by side off of corner number 4. Wetmore in the Tube Tech Supra on the inside. Lariah's Sim Speed Shot Machine on the outside. Still not clear. Now he is. Wetmore will clear off of turn number 2, but not going to move up to the wall. Going to keep the defensive line down the back straightaway. Wants to ensure. Now Lariah can't swoop in for the crossover, and that'll open up the door for Dunkelberger to stick his nose on the inside, and Lariah risks losing 2 now.
Yeah, door to door, wheel to wheel, they go off the exit of 4, and that's going to change as Lariah does a good job keeping his nose pretty clean here. He just slides in behind that 51 machine. It hasn't made too many mistakes so far as the 18 goes all the way down to that yellow line. It's basically been no man's land so far in this event. They've used the wall, but they've yet to utilize what that apron could maybe add some dynamic to this. Could potentially help rotate that car just a little bit better. But so far, so good. We've stayed clean and green with 48 laps to go now.
Down to 3, just over 3.5 tenths of a second, and still closing between Cody Harris and Agnell Phillip. Just like we saw on the first run, Phillip burns his tires up early, and now Cody Harris, after saving a bit of that Goodyear rubber, started to reel him in little by little, 100th by hunting him down with that outside line. Lariah with a slight bobble off of 4, but he'll get himself gathered up as Harris continues to take the outside line and try to get the diamond off of these corners, but it's a big mistake there for Cody Harris. He swung out way too wide that time, and that will cost him about a 10th.
Yeah, it's just a battle of two front runners going head to head here, and we'll see which one comes out on top. It has been the Agnell Phillip show. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. He has been that guy as you look at Cody Harris with the Ohio State or the missed field goal capital of the world, unless you're a Dallas fan right now, and the extra points have not been your best friend in this game through 2 quarters, just coming into the 3rd. So boys, we have 46 laps to go, and hurry this up so I can go lay on the couch with my wife and finish the Bucs-Cowboys game, because you got I would say 2 Cowboys fans in here. Me, not so much, but my wife is a big Cowboys fan.
And Harris, you can see communicating with some of his teammates over there as he tries to get himself sorted. Not sure if we have any lip readers that might be able to let us in on what was said, but
I think he said he had to poop.
Oh, did he really? Oh,
no,
well.
I'm just kidding.
I don't read lips. I was going to take your word for that one.
I made you think.
I'm not the best with lip reading, so I was just going to take your word on anything you tried to say there, to be honest with you.
Well, that'd been something. He just said, man, I got to poop. And then everybody just watched him, didn't realize he was on camera.
Oh, boy. Well, to be fair, there have been worse things said on camera before, even through lip sync world. And you'll have the likes of Grant Davis further in the background, seeing if he can't try to close out the guys in front of him. Davis in a bit of no man's land, sits in 11th place at the moment, and last lap by half a second slower than Harry Grindell up the road, and half a second slower than Gregory Shaw behind him in 12th as well. So it looks like Grant Davis might be in the Agnell Phillip boat of losing a bit of ground in the number 24 Hasib Design Chevrolet. We'll look up to Michael Lariah, still running in the 6th position. Dunkelberger ahead, Staney behind, and your group of 4 or 5 cars here remains unchanged at the moment for spots in and around the top 5.
Yeah, Lariah is just sitting there one spot outside the top 5 in 6th. not necessarily been the second half of this race that I think he thought he was going to get here. He was running up there in this top 5, top 4 position, doing a real markup job, staying up there, trying to keep this championship a little bit more competitive going into Las Vegas next week, where we know Agnell Phillip is very good. So hoping to see him go up there and make a couple runs. And we'll see if he's just tire saving just a little bit back here in the back, trying to make up some spots later on. But we go up here to the battle for third. As here comes Tom Wetmore. I gave him the goal. Red House Esports said they wanted to talk to me at the end of this race. They said, all right, top 3, and you're here. Here he goes. He's looking for that third place spot with 41 laps to go.
40 laps to go this time by, setting to enter the final third of this race. And you mentioned before, the battle for third still picking up. And Wetmore looking, going to try to commit this time by. Nieto covering him off. Got to be careful not to run into the left rear quarter panel. And once again, Tom Wetmore taking too much of the flatter transitioning of the racetrack. And he's going to lose time up to the likes of San Nieto, who starts to hightail it up the road for third, and Wetmore going to hang on for that fourth position for the time being. Dunkelberger rounds out the top 5 as we'll continue to watch these laps slowly but surely tick away, and every lap as we get into this final third, it's going to start to play more and more on these drivers. You don't make that move soon, you're not going to be able to make it at all.
Well, I think what most of these drivers are hoping for is that the driver in front of you, drove too much, drove too hard, and it's going to create a different balance when it comes to the car. As you look at Harry Grindell right here in that 10th place position with a little bit of damage on that right side. Nothing too crazy as he looks in front of him with Corey Blevins in the 99 machine. It's still up for grabs to go all the way up to the 6th place spot. I mean, there's not a whole lot of separation in this field other than your top 2 leaders who have pulled away by 2 seconds. But everybody else is right under a blanket. We could see a massive shakeup with 38 to go.
And don't forget, it only takes that one car in this group to mess up, and we could be seeing ourselves with a big pile-up. We kind of lucked out with Esteban Rodriguez about 30 laps ago, because when he got turned to the outside wall, it was right in the middle of a huge slew of traffic, and somehow everybody was able to avoid him, bar one driver, and I believe it may have been Thomas George that had gotten into him for that second yellow flag of the afternoon. But again, lucked out that wasn't any bigger than it was, and now we'll see if we'll be getting anything else. But the way New Hampshire races typically work, isn't it, is you get that one yellow flag in the first 5 laps, and then apart from that, it pretty much goes green to the end, and the trend continues today. It's been that way in the Cup Series and the IceBreaker Winter Series for seasons upon seasons now. What is it about those first 5 laps that gives us that one yellow that's so different compared to every other lap of the race where we tend to go green, Terry?
Well, I will get in trouble if I say what I want to say, so I will censor myself to the least hurtful way. Aggression.
Fair enough. I can get behind that. Sometimes it takes that early yellow to give you a bit of a kick to the seat to realize, hey, it's still a long way to go. I've had a few moments like that in other races. I've had some races even for full-length races with certain cars that we can no longer speak of, at certain races that we can no longer speak of, for a certain 500 miles around a certain rectangular oval, where I've had a few races there where we've had some early race cautions, and then from there they realize, hey, we've got 180 laps to go. Why are we doing this so early? And it usually goes pretty smoothly from there, and seems like it's just the case with RSR and most leagues in general at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the Magic Mile. Nieto still under pressure by Tom Wetmore, and they're starting to actually walk away a bit of a gap from them to Ryan Dunkelberger, so the gap for 34th starting to settle out into its own separate fight.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets aggressive here, and I get it. Why? I do. I get it. I absolutely get it. You have to get all the positions possible. You cannot sit here. Perfect example here. Tom Wetmore's made a lot of passes here tonight, but how long has he been sitting behind Sam Nieto on old tires with the same lap tires that Sam Nieto has? Quite a bit. We have looked at this battle and looked at this battle and looked at this battle, and it's not going to change. This is not a racetrack that you can go, yep, I saved quite a bit of tires, I'm going to go up here and pass you. No. If you don't get around them in the early portion of the race, you're stuck. You're going to sit there until one of these two drivers makes a mistake. And that's what a lot of leagues, and it's hard, it's easy to explain it to leagues. It's very hard to explain it to official races because they don't care to listen. Let's get in a rhythm. Let's just ride. Let's just do our thing. Everybody chill out. We can make this run happen to the very end. Sure enough, we get 10, 15 cautions at a race like this, but then you look at the league setting. We've had 2 cautions so far in this race, barring an absolute disaster. Like a certain place that makes video games, we're not gonna run into that issue here.
And I think that's kind of the big thing about it really tells us the difference in league racing to official racing, right? In official races, you're rarely ever going to be in the same grid twice. There's always going to be something different. You never are able to get used to the drivers you race around, and everybody wants to make their mark, right? Everybody wants to make their own little impressions. But now, when you get into league races like this, you get to know the people that you're racing around, and you get to think big picture. You don't always have to be worried about, drop weeks and all that sort of thing. You don't have to worry about safety rating or I rating. It's just you and the guys around you. It is such a different dynamic than you can get anywhere else. I would dare to say, even in sim racing as a whole, to race leagues here on iRacing. And it's a great community that they got here in RSR, and it's been one that has been thriving for years upon years. And the way things are set to go, they will continue to thrive for years to come.
Well, you think about this place, a lot of leagues have a lot of drama that comes with it, a lot of baggage that comes around from each time you race. You come to RSR, there's none of that. It's ran with a tight ship. Stop. They know the stop word. They understand that if it gets out of line, penalties do occur. We promote clean racing here. We don't promote bringing your favorite celebrity, put them on the track. They call us a big one. Oh, well, no. This is, you come out here, you race. We're going to do it right. You're going to race with respect. You're going to claim cautions, take responsibility for your actions, and that's what makes me so proud to be a part of this league. Is you see these drivers come out here week in and week out. Yeah, they'll fly off the handle and say what's on their chest, but personality brings more diversity. It brings more people in to watch these races. It allows us to have a little bit of different perspective when it comes to talking to them, and they're willing to teach anybody. A lot of these young drivers that are coming in here, I would tell you to reach out and ask them questions. I've reached out and asked multiple questions to many drivers in this league and said, hey, I need help figuring this track out this week. Can you help me? Yep. They'll tell me everything I need to know. They'll tell me their throttle input. They'll tell me their steering input. They'll tell me every bit of what they're doing around a racetrack, and they will never hold information. They'll hold their strategy from me. They don't want me going out here and telling, oh, I think Agnell Phillips going to pit, on lap 62 of this race, and this is what's going to happen, and then that's his strategy, and somebody heard me. But other than that, man, if you want to know things. We had a guy race here last year, Kevin King. I don't know if you know this or not. He's going to the Coke Series.
I, in fact, did not know that.
Yeah, he's going to race for Junior Motorsports in the 88 machine.
I mean, I can't exactly say I'm surprised with how dominant of a run he had in the RSR a couple of seasons ago, and I'll pass on my congratulations to him as soon as this race is over. But it's big that you can get such a huge spread of skill levels you got over here, and you saw almost a bit of 3 wide. Nahoyne Flores trying to look to the inside of Thomas George, and Durham will make with a spot for 14th on the racetrack. George will tuck in line for 15th, while Flores has to stay settled for 16th. But again, you get that wide spread of drivers here, and yet it is still one of the most competitive fields that you can find on the iRacing service when it comes to stock car league racing.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell anybody that's willing to listen. It doesn't matter what I'm doing on any given weekend. I went to Florence and Southern National back-to-back weeks, and I told everybody that would listen. iRacing's the place to be, and if you want a league that's competitive, you want a league that has really good people in it, come race RSR. And that was up and down pit road, and I will continue to do it for as long as I'm at a racetrack, short track, big track, road course, whatever. If you want a league that makes sense, that's flexible with your schedule, this is the best damn league on iRacing because it's perfect to fit everybody's schedule. Monday nights is the best night possible to put a league. It allows you to do your racing on Sunday, whatever you have to do on the weekend, and then you're home on Monday. You're settled in, unless our wonderful producer and our really goat-ish guy that leads this series is at Monster Jam. But other than that, it's a really good time to put your league on.
Looking back up to Michael Araya along with Jason Staney and Ryan Dunkelberger, still running for 5th, 6th, and 7th. Phipps sits just in the wings down in the 8th spot, and that gap between Wetmore and Nieto has only grown since we last checked in on these guys here. So it's become a three-way fight here for 5th, the last spot within the top 5, and Laraya's not been all that eager here to try to see if he can make that spot up. He's just been tucking in line and be happy to kind of sit and wait at the Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet. The same can be said for Standy's Pure Sims Mustang, who's also just kind of been hanging around waiting in the wings. I wonder if they're waiting for those last 10 laps where they really try to throw down the hammer.
I wouldn't wait that long because you'll be 57 laps on your tires. I would imagine with the pace falling off the way that it has, it's about a second and a half off of what we saw fastest lap time wise in the low 31s. I wouldn't necessarily want to see anybody kind of throwing it down towards the end. That's how we start to bury ourselves in the caution flag. Is you see the 51 and that Tube Tech Chevy trying to go up here for that battle for third again. Sam Nieto's done a good job. And that discount tire Ford, still the best looking paint scheme out here on this field. Unless somebody runs a Tennessee Volunteer scheme, that too is still the baddest thing out here.
And we'll continue to watch these guys run in those awesome looking paint schemes for the time being. Meanwhile, big news, Thomas George is in pit road. I don't know if he could not make it to the end or what, but George is into the lane, and he's not the only driver that's had some trouble, as the likes of Richard Woodruff ended up almost having to spin, and he had contact with Cody Harris while all that was going on. The battle for third just cycled its way through as well. You've also got this fight, Lariah and Staney. Sure enough, they're waiting for a little bit later, and now Lariah has to defend against Staney, and Richard Woodruff damaged now just up in front of them. He's going to get in the way, and Staney going to be having to go 3 wide up the middle. Woodruff going to get out of the way by going up high.
Yeah, that was a pick play, and it almost caused a wreck, and Staney holds on. Surprisingly enough, he goes 3 wide down the middle, and it actually worked for him. Didn't harm his speed anyway, and I think Thomas George had a bit of an issue because he's now 2 laps down, still on the pit lane. Has not left. He's been left for about a minute and some change in the box itself for 57.5 seconds. So he's been on pit road for quite a while as that battle for third continuously heats up.
And there's the lunge, trying to go around the outside for Thomas Wetmore. Maybe try to just get the run off the corner of the diamond off on the run down the back straightaway. But these guys know now that they do not have a lot of time, and Thomas Wetmore going to continue to try to work on San Nieto just in front of him, trying to see if he can break his way onto the podium. The Tube Tech Supra doing a good job thus far, and Nieto having to really work that defensive game. And I'll tell you what, that's one thing Nieto is great at, is playing defense, and he is certainly showing those defensive skills here today.
He's playing defense better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's 24-0 over here midway through the third.
I know what you're talking about with that one.
It's okay. They might want to hire Sam Nieto because their blocking skills are awful. They're letting receivers get down the field. They're making Dak Prescott look like he's Tom Brady 10 years ago. Not too great. But Harry Grandel's trying to put the fight there on Corey Blevins. That 99's loose off the corner. Exactly what I thought would happen. with 51 laps on these tires, now 52 laps. We'll see if Harry Grindell can get around there on the outside as he tries to swing it through 1 and 2.
I'll say that's not the only battle he got on track. He's got a few guys that are changing hands over on the timing boards, including Durham and Shaw that just had a bit of a fight for the 14th spot, and Durham will secure that one down the back straightaway. That all initiated about 2 laps ago when Durham lunged up the inside of Shaw on lap 110, and then they made contact over in turns 1 and 2, or that caused Shaw to back off, and now we get to where we are here on lap 112 with Shaw trying to see if he can run down Steve Durham once again for 14th. And then you've got Wetmore still trying to attack for 3rd. He might get a chance here. Sambietto pushing wide and had to stack up Wetmore, and Wetmore just barely going to avoid running into the back of the Mustang.
Yeah, with 13 laps to go, we'll see if anybody's able to make these late charges. I just don't know with these old tires if we're going to see a hard charge from somebody to make a pass happen unless the mistake continuously comes out of the driver of the 2 machine. I kind of think we're sitting where we're at, or if Dunkelberger has an issue and Staney's able to get around him, a caution would change everything. Now with 12 laps to go, they're going to cross this line. That could be what throws the wrench in this whole plan.
Down to turn number 1, Jason Staney, Ryan Dunkelberger also still nose to tail with 12 laps to go. The Pure Sims 57 car still trying to work at the Bowie Esports number 18 Mustang, and Lariah only dropping back from behind. It's become a 2-car battle for the last spot within the top 5 on what has been now our 2nd longest green flag run of the night. Will it come, though, to a premature end with a late race caution? We haven't had that in a while here, and we're hoping that track record will remain clean today as Wetmore and Nieto continue to work together. One driver that's hoping that there will not be a yellow, Phillip, who's now pulled out for the first time all race long, a gap of over a second.
Yeah, I think unless the caution comes out, I think we're wrapping this up with a little Christmas bow tie for Agnell Phillip. He's led all the laps, but maybe 2 or 3 that Cody Harris led there. He's set on pole by 5/100ths of a second. He's done everything right so far in this race. Now we just have to see, okay, can he close the deal? You got a little bit of a blinky issue there for the 18 machine of Dunkelberger. We'll see what he's able to do, if it's able to get going. But we'll take a look up here at this lead with 9 laps to go. It's not closing for Cody Harris, and he's loose, and he's caught some of the wall at some point. He's got damage on the passenger side.
No driver is immune to the walls here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and among those is Cody Harris, and I think that damage may indeed be of what's impacting that car and forcing him to drop further back to now a good second or so, and he has not been able to close himself back on up. Now that damage, actually, I don't believe initiated from the wall. In fact, it didn't initiate from the wall. Remember what I mentioned earlier? Richard Woodruff got turned by a Harris. That is where the damage came from. It was from nose-to-tail contact with the left rear of the 27 car, and that is why we see now at the moment Cody Harris with that damage up on the front end, and he'll have to struggle with that for these last 8 laps or so. Sambietto and Wetmore have now caught up to Alexander Light. The first car 1 lap down to the driver that's in for a lucky dog spot here. If this race does have ourselves with a late caution, he'll swing up to the top side and let your battle for 3rd siphon on through.
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking about how Cody Harris got it, he actually caught the wall. He caught the wall pretty hard, too. He lost about 1/10 of a second on that exchange, but this has been the only battle that's really formed up. You know, this has been the tale of 2 halves of the race. We saw the halfway point with the caution flag come out for caution number 2, and it was 4/10 of a second separating our race lead. 3rd and 4th was right there, about 2 seconds, 3 seconds back, and then, the bottom kind of just fell out on us, and we went to fill time.
And now trying to go for the long way around 1 and 2. Standing making the move on Dunkelberger, but a long way around the outside only really works in open wheel racing here. You're never really going to be able to get that successfully when you're in big, bulky stock cars like these ones. You got to try to go for that over-under, right, and try to see if you can make a sneak attack down the inside on entry to one of these corners. And it looks like Standing's going to try just that. Tries to diamond off 4. Has the run, but not going to get nearly close enough. Gave him too much time in trying to get that momentum.
Yeah, that outside lane. This late in the run, don't see it necessarily coming in to make a big play in this race. You're going to have to kind of hope that you push the driver in front of you into a mistake. But what a run for these two drivers in the 18 and the 57, doing a really, really swell job. Just minding their own business, sitting here in this top 5, top 6 spot. Not really making a lot of noise, but not really being too quiet about it either.
Oh, pushing up a bit there for the 18 car as he jumped on the bind, has locked it up a little bit to avoid drifting up too wide so that Standing can get the move up the inside. It's under 4 to go. Standing has got to make this move. He's got to make it here. There's the late lunge. It's a sneak attack to the inside of 3. Now he's got to watch for the push job here. Dunkelberger trying to pinch him in off of 4. Side by side at the door, and they remain clean. And Standing will be in a drag race now down the front straightaway to turn number 1 with 3 laps to go, and the 57 hanging tough. I think Dunkelberger could fend him off on the top shelf.
Well, they go side by side through the exit of 2 down the back straightaway. 57 of Staney gets loose. The 18 of Dunkelberger, he's able to hold off here, puts him to the quarter panel. Now he's back to the door, back to a quarter clear for the 57. He watches up, they make contact, they touch again. And he's shoving him out of the way. The 57's clear, but it took a lot of contact to do it.
And here comes Lariah, sees an open door, and he's going to take full advantage, sends one to the inside, entering turn 1. 2 laps to go, but Dunkelberger will clear to the bottom, and Lariah will hang tough. Dunkelberger now has to try to charge after staying. He's got a lap and a half to do so. While Agno Phillip comes off at turn 4, and he will take the white flag. So 1 mile of racing left to go for the Magic Mile as we will finish this race under regulation time. The battle for 6th all to play for, and Phillip has Cody Harris nowhere in sight off of turn number 2. The only cars he's battling with are lap traffic. Going to get around Braden Whittaker. He'll be the last car that Phillip will make a pass on. He'll go to the inside of 3 and 4, and Phillip again putting on the clinic, and he will extend his points lead over Michael Lariah, and this could be what secures him a championship at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Fight coming on down for the 5th position out of turn number 4, but Dunkelberger can't get back to him and is only going to split apart as the fight will come to a bit of a lackluster ending.
Yeah, I don't want to say it too loud because I'm sure Agno Phillip ain't going to be too happy if I say it, but he won the championship there. I don't think there's any way, unless he just has a catastrophic week next week at Vegas and you see Michael Lariah go out and win the race and put every phase together. But it's hard to keep Agno Phillip out of the top 5 in any race. He's going to need to wreck out for any shot at the championship to go to the 44.
Well, we've seen it happen before, and the possibility is still very much there as we get set to enter the gambling capital of the world. But for now, at the Magic Mile, Phillip burns it down to the front straightaway, and we'll take a rundown of your official post-race results here from race number 6 at New Hampshire. Agno Phillip taking the win by 2 seconds over Cody Harris, who had to lip that car home with damage. Sam Vieto will pick up 3rd with Tom Wetmore back there in 4th place. Jason Standing will round out the top 5. Dunkelberger sits in 6th with Lariah in 7th. Phipps is 8th. Grindell and Blevins will round out the top 10.
Go back there to 11 to get Raleigh Grant Davis for Flat Out Esports. 14 seconds back, Ross Cato. Mr. Flores in the 88. Steve Durham. Pancari back there in 15th. Eric Pepino. Gregory Skull. Brandon Fetterplace. Braden Whittaker. And Steve Tucker rounds out the top 21 lap down.
And of course, then in 21st place, Alexander Light, Munatsi Major, Richard Woodrow for the last drivers to finish this race. From there, you got Thomas George, Sean Kalis, Esteban Rodriguez, Chris Edwards, Mike Kaczynski, and Tom Murano will round out your 29-car field from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. What a race we have here today. And we'll start from the bottom of the podium. We'll work our way up, and I'll pass it on down to you first, Terry. You're standing by with the third-place finisher, Sam Vieto.
What up, Sam? Nice-looking car out there.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, I said the only way any car looks better than yours is they put a Tennessee scheme out there. What do you think? Going into Vegas next week, you gonna win it?
It depends on. Well, let's go back a second here. It depends on what season we're talking about. If we're talking about basketball season, I might paint it up Kentucky blue. I don't know what you were
disrespectful.
Doing Saturday.
That's so disrespectful.
There was a basketball game.
So disrespectful.
Kentucky destroyed Tennessee.
Well.
Oh no! Yeah, going into Vegas, I'm not going to practice for it. I'm just going to show up and run like I did tonight. I doubt that I'll win because these guys are pretty good, and if you don't practice, then I can hope for a P3. That'd be the best case scenario probably next week.
I'm not gonna lie. When he said he was gonna pass it to me, you tweeted at me Saturday. I was at the racetrack. I was at Paradise Raceway up in South Carolina. I was watching the game on the phone during our track prep time, and I'm sure you can catch the action on pitroad.tv if you wanted to know what I was doing on the cameras. It looked great, but yeah, Kentucky played great, and we're talking football season. Basketball season's not over. I still have a better record than Kentucky Wildcats, and probably going to go a lot further in, and we can actually keep a coach that doesn't want to go to Texas.
Maybe. I mean, Cal's got a lifetime contract, so it's up to him. I wish he'd hire an offensive coordinator, though.
Yeah, y'all need one. All right, Sam. Hey, get out of here. Talk to you in Vegas.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Thought for a moment you're about to start to throw hands on the third.
Well, he's a smart aleck. We'll get over it.
Oh boy. Well, we'll now bring up our second place driver. That's the runner-up by 2 seconds. Probably could have done more had it not been for the damage. And for Cody Harris, you come home second place and kind of fell apart after the contact with Richard Woodrow there with about 20 laps to go. Why don't you walk us through it?
Yeah, that was a fun race with Agnell there. It was probably a battle of whoever got out front on that restart. If I was able to hold them off, then maybe I would have won. Late in the run, it was just really hard to pass, and then just catching lap traffic at the wrong spots. It was going to be really tough to pass had that not happened. But yeah, I used up my tires a little more on that second run, and it just cost me just a little bit of time. And yeah, but congrats to Agnell. That was a fun race overall, just trying to keep up with him, and really fun on that restart when we were trading back and forth. And yeah, it was a fun race.
Well, the way things stand, you're going to reel in the gap between yourself and Tom Wetmore for third place of the championship here. It's still a dead heat. I think it'll be 2 points separating the two of you when we leave New Hampshire today and get set to go to Vegas. Do you still have your heart set on that third championship position by season's end in 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's the plan. I had a couple. If I finish a race in the Winter Series so far, I finished in the top 5. Daytona, when I got spun out of the lead, that cost me a lot of points, and then I forget. I think it was Nashville. I got into a wreck and broke the car. But yeah, it's been I'd like to get second, but I think that might be out of reach. Lariah runs well each and every week, so I'm not sure there'll be enough points on the table for me to get up to second.
And of course, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, gambling capital of the world, and also home to one of the fastest mile and a halfs that we've got on the RSR calendar in general. What's the odds we get set to go to Las Vegas Motor Speedway?
I haven't driven this car on a mile and a half in a while, so I'll have to have a good week of practice and figure out how to be quick there.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight here, Cody. Congratulations on that second place finish. Best of luck next week when we get set to swing on out to Nevada.
Thank you.
That was Cody Harris joining us up in that second position, and that will then leave us with race winner Agnel Phillip at the 851 Pro Chevrolet. And Agnel, thought you were looking a bit worried there when you came down to about 0.3 of a second between yourself and Cody, but then after that contact with Woodruff, you were able to just walk that gap out to 2 seconds, and you were smooth sailing from there to the end.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I hope you guys on the broadcast were talking Cody up, because what he did all race was really impressive. It's hard to stay kind of that close to somebody for that long with the way dirty air in this simulator works. Keep your tires on it, and you know, I honestly think he was probably a little bit better long run than I was. So I hope you guys gave him a good shout out on that, because that was really impressive drive from him. But yeah, I mean, it was all about kind of gap management today and just trying to, you know, pick my spots when I decided to kind of let it rip a little bit more versus trying to save tire. You know, at the end of the day, we're running for a championship. So, you know, a win would have been great, but I was really trying to make sure that I, you know, expanded that out as much, gave myself as much of a buffer going into next week at Vegas as possible.
And of course, looking back at the runs that you guys had earlier in this race, and on the initial restart after that second yellow flag, Cody Harris wasted no time jumping to your inside. You had to fight pretty hard to get him back. It looked like you two were going to go at it like it was a green-white checkered for a minute. How important is it at a track like this to get that move done ASAP, or you might find yourself being stuck in the back? Yeah,
it was everything, and I don't know how I got caught sleeping that much on that restart, and how I kind of let him get the run to get under me there. But that was a really good move by him. And when he cleared me, I honestly was like, okay, well, I guess we'll go into damage limitation mode here and try and, you know, secure the second place. And you know, if the run came, I was gonna take it. I was gonna try and put some pressure on him. I think I got under him a couple corners later, was able to kind of stay side by side, you know, try to take advantage of my positioning on track to try and get around him, and really work the tires much harder than I did at any other point in the race, because that clean air was so important. And then yeah, it just kind of worked out. I think he said he got tight or something when we were side by side. It enabled me to clear him, and then it's kind of back to what I was doing the first run. It might have been a little bit easier because I think he would have also kind of burned his tires up a little bit trying to, you know, make that move and battling. But, you know, it was a stressful race from start to finish, and kind of glad that we came through when it mattered.
And of course, you mentioned, of course, the importance on having to extend that gap of the points. Well, you will have easily done that tonight with yourself finishing into the first position and Lariah finishing way back in 7th. Is the plan to then lock that championship out in Vegas so you can just rest easy when we get down to the season finale?
Yeah, I think Vegas is the season finale, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is the season finale.
Yeah, good. I was hoping there wasn't some mystery track left to try and worry about, but
newsflash,
yeah, you know,
schedule added.
But I think, you know, the goal next week's going to be the same as every week. I want to try and put it on pole, lead the most laps, and win the race. I think that's the safest place to be. And that's kind of the mindset that I want to be in, to make sure I don't get unnecessarily, you know, in my head about, you know, trying to race for points. The points racing will come on the chances I take on track. But in terms of prep, in terms of, you know, what the goal is always to lead every lap and win, right? So, you know, we'll get as close to that as we can. And, you know, I've been doing really good on qualifying this entire winter series. I think that's been the key to kind of the success. I've been able to stay out of trouble that way more than anything else. So we're going to try and keep that up at Vegas, which is usually a pretty good track for me. I think I had a shot at winning both of the winter series races the last couple of years. But, you know, we'll go there. We'll try and do our best, and, you know, we finish first. There's no possible way we'll lose the championship, right? So that's what the goal will be.
If you finish first, you win the race. Wise words by Will Buxton. We will hopefully see you out and winning that championship next week over at Nevada. Thank you for taking the time to join us up here tonight, Agnel, and best of luck next week.
Appreciate it, Nolan. Thanks.
That was Agno Phillip joining us up here from Victory Lane, and that's almost a wrap then on our show here from the Magic Mile. And Terry, what a race. I came in a few laps late, but again, better late than never. It was, again, a strategy race. Maybe not so much of the side-by-side department, but you had guys trying to manage those tires. Next week, not so much. That one is going to be all about on-track positioning, and we're going to be seeing a lot more side-by-side than we did here. What a way to end off the Winter Series season.
Yeah, I think Evan selfishly put it in his backyard so he could come call it from Vegas while he's technically can flex on us and say that he's in Vegas at the same time. But yeah, it's a flex, but you know we'll take the flex every now and again. We come to Atlanta, I could technically say, I might even just drive to the track. Who knows? We'll play it by ear. I'm not 100% sure. Next week's going to be great. Great to wrap up this season, and then we can start looking at Daytona. That's on the horizon too, a couple weeks down the road.
And that's going to be it then for us here from the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series season. Once again, my name is Nolan Rempel with Terry Bradford beside me in the broadcast booth. And I want to give a thanks for Josh Woodley for covering and, of course, for then his work behind the cameras from there on out. My name has been Nolan Rempel again. And, well, that's been it for us here from RaceSpotTV. We'll see you all next week. Same time, same place. We get set to round out the 2022/23 RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series season from Las Vegas, Nevada.